Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Enterprise, this is the Galileo. Come in, please. Come in. Enterprise, this is the Galileo. Come in, please.
Well, good morning. Welcome back. It's week 4, the final week on the Galileo build. I've kind of put everything kind of mocked up together so you can see where I'm, where my mind is at on this display, and all the parts that are strewn about at the outside here. Everything that's left to go into it. It's, as I've said, not quite done yet, but I did a little work on the base this weekend to kind of get the rocks where I'm happy with them. And having said that, I can tear everything down now and do the finishing touches on the shuttle. And one of the major issues yet to tackle, besides putting the markings on the cells, is what exactly to do with the roof. The roof that should have engraved panels here. Of a mind, this was my first thought, and of course I'm going to try it out on my sacrificial mock-up Galileo first to see how it looks, because I can get the roof off of that a lot easier. See if I can push all this further back on the table. I still haven't made up my mind what to do with this. I love it, but I don't know exactly what the best use of it is going to be for. I think I'm just going to have it up here on the landscape, kind of dangling over. Is it a plant? Is it a creature? We don't know. But I need to go ahead and take the roof off. Take the roof off the sucker. I need to take the roof off of this, which means pulling the pin and running. It means pulling everything backwards. Remember, this doesn't have any lighting on the ceiling, so it's easier to get to. And then I need to pull out the bit that goes over the engine. Okay, good. Whew, got all that out. And then this is what I was talking about last week. They recommend gluing these two pieces together. I don't know. I think I'd rather put this one in first and then wedge this one up into it. You don't, once they're together, or once everything is in, it holds its position, so you don't need to glue either one of them in. So I don't think there's any harm in leaving that a separate piece. So we put that in here. And one thing I wanted to figure out was the template that's in the instructions for the ceiling panels, for you to engrave or scribe the lines. I need to find out whether the outer edge of that design reflects the actual size of the roof, or the roof once it's in place. Because if it is the entire roof, then there's a bit of that goes into this groove, and I need to account for that. So let me. Okay, here is, once I have removed all the extra around it, here is the roof. Oh, the desk. The desk is getting, even though I cleaned up, it is continuing to accumulate. Of course, having this big base on here isn't helping anything. Let me trim this out. Now it is Labor Day today, so I hope you all are enjoying time off if you have to work, or more time off if you don't. To me, it's just another day. Marathoning how it's made in the background. Okay, this represents the exact outer perimeter of this piece. So, logically, now I had questions last week about why I didn't use transfer tape. And I wasn't using transfer tape because I wanted to show that you didn't really need it. I know it's an extra expense. I know it's not the easiest thing to come by. If you have a science supply store in your town, go in and see if you can buy a roll of transfer tape. If not, any of the great science supply materials online will also sell transfer tape. What it is it's basically, and you may have seen it before, I'll grab a roll. This is 2-inch transfer tape. It is the home brand of a company called Grimco. That's Grimco, Grimco.com. We have a Grimco locally, so I can order from them and get it pretty quick. But Brightline is the manufacturer, and that's Grimco's house brand. But what it is it's basically low tack masking tape. It's paper. It's not a vinyl like the actual masking material is. It's not cellophane tape. It's paper, but it's got an adhesive on the back. It's less sticky masking tape. It's meant for short-term, very quick use things. And what you would do is that you would put transfer tape on the back of your vinyl and then pull the vinyl off of the backing paper, and now the adhesive on the back of the transfer tape is less sticky than the adhesive on the vinyl, so that you can transfer it, as the name implies, over to another substrate and then pull this tape off, and it will leave the vinyl behind, because the like I said, the adhesive is stickier on the vinyl than it is on the tape. And it comes in different widths. I have 2-inch. I've got everything up to 12-inch in width. Back when I was making banners for a living, that was essential, because you would use, if your letters are that tall and you are trying to put them on a vinyl banner, you would use transfer tape. But let's see. Let me grab a roll of wider transfer tape. This is the wider transfer tape, and I know that it is more than the full width of the entire piece of vinyl that I am transferring. So if I were to pull this like this, stick it down, and also while you're ordering, get yourself a plastic squeegee. Plastic squeegee, they're not that expensive, but they will save you time and energy and make it a lot easier for you to do your work. Now, I would take this, cut this down to size. Okay, now I'm doing this kind of fast and dirty for the camera. I really should move this. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and isn't this a lot cleaner? And this allows me to actually use the light of my light table. So what I've done is I've trimmed that tape to the size, and I've stuck the front edge down using the light from the light table as a guide to help me. But now I can peel the rest of the backing paper off, which, as I said, is less sticky, or the vinyl is more sticky than the tape. So now we let me turn that back on. That's going to help me, I think. Pull this straight back. Oh, now I went and did it. The front wasn't firmly attached. Okay, so we're going to do from this corner to this back corner, and we're going to roll it that way. There you go. So there, it's all attached down. Squeegee, squeegee, squeegee. Now I've got a whole roof that's covered in yellow. Why would I want that? Let's pull the tape off, and you can see what's going on. Now we've got a vinyl covered roof. Turn that off. Now we've got a vinyl covered roof on our shuttle, and we can use the squeegee. Now what I'm going to do here is take off this outer perimeter. You remember, all the lines from the panels are cut into it, but now they are in the proper position to each other. So if I remove this, leaving the inner panels where they should be, And there are our panels. Using the chart, that is how they should be laid out. And if we put that up against, the instructions, we have our 6 panels in the same position as the scribed lines. Now, here's my thought. This vinyl is fairly thin. It is barely, I got a hair caught underneath it, and that's something you have to watch out for. When you are putting this down, you need to make sure that it's in a very clean environment, that you don't get any dust trapped underneath your vinyl. Now, I could just take a scribing tool, either a dental tool or a backwards hook. Pull all this back towards me now. And go around the edge of these, giving me my scribed lines, and then peel these up, and then you're off to the races. Or you can do what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave these in place. I'm going to treat these as raised panels, not as scribed lines. Is it canon? No. Do I like it? Yes. Again, the vinyl is so thin that it's barely raised at all. So what I will do is I'll hit this with a white primer and then go back and re-gray it. But if I were of a mind to do it, I could easily take a scribing tool and use this as my reference to scribe around. And if I wanted to, I could hold an edge around it and use that as my guide, and you know, so that I'm not free-handedly scribing, but using these marks to tell me. Okay, consequently, I just had another idea. I could use these vinyls as is. Like I said, I'm going to leave my panels on. I could use these and now trace a pencil line around them. If I've traced a pencil line around and then I remove them, then I could use a straight edge and scribe. I could either scribe up against the vinyl like this and just scribe it like that, or I could draw the pencil line around it and then peel it off and then scribe my line. I like the idea that there is something here, because now I've got something that run my scriber against. And if I'm going to do that with a piece of metal, I can run it in this channel now that I've made between the vinyl and the edging. So there's multiple ways you could use that. I'm going to leave this down and see how it looks. I want to paint this, and it is the least destructive method. If I don't like it, I can always go back and scribe the lines. But I think what I want to do is hit this with the white primer and then paint it. So I'll be back right after I do that. Okay, I've got the panels on the roofs, and now I'm ready to re-light gray them. This time I started with a lighter primer, so it shouldn't take as long or be nearly as difficult. Okay, now before I paint the top of the roofs, the lighter hull color, while I've got that lighter hull color paint in the brush and all loaded up, I'm going to take advantage of it to do one other thing. And that is, when it comes to doing these registries on the nacelles, I'm not going to call them warp nacelles, ion nacelles, the nacelles, the red is going to get very muddy. It's going to get very muddy if it goes on this dark gray. The black I'm not worried about, because black is black. Black will go over everything. But when I put these templates down, what I'd like to do is shoot the area where the red stripe is going to be. I want to shoot that with a lighter undertone. I'm going to use that upper hull color. That way the gray, or the red on these nacelles will be as bright as the red that is on the upper part of the shuttle, because it has the same color underneath it. This is part of color building. You can put any color under another color, and it will the top layer will take on some of the characteristics of the paint behind it. If you want your reds to be a little bit more vibrant, you might put them on a yellow or an orange to brighten them up. I don't get into that a lot when I'm painting, except for in instances like this where I have a darker color. If I were going to paint yellow on this, you betcha I would go with a white undercoat before I put the yellow on, just so that it's not trying to sit on top of this dark gray all by itself. It has to make it work too hard. And you've heard me use that phrase that paint should never have to work hard. That's why. What I want to do is go ahead and put these templates down. I've got them all trimmed out, got them all weeded. The only thing we're going to have to worry about is the O, the inside of the O. Now, I'm not going to use transfer tape on this because I want you to see that you don't need to use transfer tape in this application. When you do this yourself, if you want to use a Scotch tape, maybe a masking tape is going to be too difficult to see through. But if you wanted to use like a very light Scotch tape, you could do that and peel that back up. That's something you could experiment with. I usually don't recommend it, but I want to get these in place. Now, the obvious one to start with is, and I have one that has the door open, one has the door closed, so I have one that has the foot pad open. That's going to be the easiest place to start because I know where that foot pad lands, so I can go ahead and put this, and that will help me on the non-foot padded version to help line it up as far as my dimensions front and back. But here we go. Now I'm going to have to cut out, I should probably do that now. I'm going to have to cut out, sit this back on the paper for a second. I'm going to have to cut out the bottom of this footrest, and I'll change that on the plot file so that you don't have to worry about that. But because this is in the way, I can't wrap the mask around it. And I'm looking at it here. Do I like that? Now remember, when this sits on the shuttle, it's going to be at an angle, but I want the registry to be square with the nacelle, not necessarily the angle at which the nacelle is going to sit on the ground. There you go. Now it's on the nacelle, and I look down the line and sight it up against that foot pad. Yeah, that's going to work just fine. Getting these registries onto these cylinders can be kind of tricky because it's not like a decal where you've got a lot of time to push it around and smear it and inch it into position. When you're putting down vinyl, you need to know where it's going as you're putting it down. So what I think we might want to talk about is how do we get this level front to back when we don't have a step to use as a guide. Okay, we're back, and we're putting the decals on, not decals, heaven forbid. No, we're putting the registries on the nacelles. And you come up to the question, how do you put a painting mask on a cylinder? It's not like a decal where you can kind of push it around, you lay it down, and then you jockey it into position until it looks right to you. Depending on this is how you're going to do it, because you got to when you put vinyl down, you kind of need to know where it's going as you're putting it down. You can't put it down and then inch it into position like a decal. So depending on how good of a modeler you are, and this will show you how good of a modeler I am, I can see this seam right here that's running down the center of the center of the nacelle. Chances are you know where yours is as well. So what we're going to do, in order to find a height that we like, I've got this front section at a height that I like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take either a piece of paper or a very thin piece of styrene. I prefer a very thin piece of styrene because it's got a little bit more fight in it than a piece of paper does. And what I'm going to do is I am going to line it up on the seam, or I'm going to line it up on the bottom of the template, and then I'm going to wrap it around until it hits the seam in the center. And now I know that that distance here between this point and this edge is the height of the front of the mask. Now the mask is always going to, the design is always going to be square inside the mask. So if you can measure to the bottom of the design, or you can measure to the bottom of the mask, they'll both be square. So now I can take, let me go ahead and make a little tick mark there, but I can take this back off, set it down on the paper for right now. Now I can take this piece of paper, or this piece of plastic, line it up on the seam of the two parts, and then I can, as many times as I want to do this, I can make a little tick mark on the side of the piece of side of the nacelle. And now I've got a square parallel line. And the nice thing about, well, these nacelles in particular, is that they are tubes. They're cylinder tubes. They don't taper front to back. They are regular tubes. So now I've got a series of tick marks here that I can easily erase. They're not going to be in the design. They're not going to interfere with that. But they are at the base of the template. So line it up there. Line these up as I go. And now I know that that is going to be square. And if you line this edge up with the front of the grills, you would line this edge up with all of these grills, and then I took, like I said, I used a height that was about, that looks to be, let me see, get the old measuring stick out here. That is, that's about 3/8. That's about 3/8 of an inch from here to the bottom of the template. So then I just make a series of marks there, and now we're gravy. We're good to go. Let me pop the center of the O in here. And I can use that same measurement now for all of the, all of the nacelles really, because now I know that that 3/8 is a good and consistent mark. Oh, I was a good modeler here. It's tough to see my seam. There it is. It snuck its way back. So there's 3/8, and if you take it off of the edge of the pocket there, where the landing gear is. Wow, I was good on that one. The other one was a lot easier to see. Ooh, that was a voluminous sneeze you didn't need to hear. Okay, and so we have the last one. And we line it with the last rib. If your pencil mark is too small, you kind of have to go into the light where you can see it reflect. On this dark gray, it is not an easy thing to spot. It is so difficult that I need to do another mark up here up front. That was easy because that was an easy, that's an easy line to find. Okay. There it is. And you can always pull it off and check it if you need to. Yeah. Okay. So let me put the O center in. Okay, so what we're going to do at this point is we're going to take the masking tape and we're going to tape off the outside edges of everything. And then we're going to paint the light gray, only really in the areas where the stripes are. I've got the undercolor sprayed on the nacelles, and I went ahead and sprayed the roofs, the ceilings, the roofs of the shuttles, and then I went with a darker accent and just misted down both sides, and that's going to help accentuate that shadow that happens underneath the curved roof, and it breaks up all of that solid coloring. But those need to dry, and I think I'll clean out the brush and we'll put the red on these nacelles next. Okay, I think we're ready to paint the red, to get some red on them, to quote one of my favorite films, Shaun of the Dead. You've got red on you. We're going to get some red on these nacelles, and they will be well red. Don't need too much red. Put the red over to the side. Be very cautious with our overspray, because red is very, I've said this before, it's a very strong color. So what we're going to do basically is paint the areas that I've just painted the light gray, and what I'm doing is putting just a little blocker, just a little piece of paper over the black lettering, so that I don't inadvertently spray onto that. Now this one's interesting because I also have to paint the bottom of that step. Now the inside of the alcove here where the step is, I'm just going to hand paint that paint that by hand, paint that black. No biggie there. Okay, we're going to let that dry, and then we will do the opposite parts. We will go back in and block the edges off and paint the black that's in the center. Alrighty, I've just painted in the black numbers. No great mystery how I did that. You just take the tape off of either side. I'm going to go ahead and take that back off so that I don't let it dry over the red paint. And then I'll let these sit for a bit, and then maybe take them off after dinner tonight, and then that will be my goodly amount of work for a Labor Day. Okay, as the sun is sinking into the west, it is time to close up for today's work. But first, before I go, I want to take these masks off of the nacelles and let them sit there overnight. Isn't that lovely? Ta-da! Are we seeing that all right? Yep, the bright sun in here is blocking everything here. There you go. Now you can see it. Okay, let's do the rest of them. Here we go. We've got a whole collection of pennants on our nacelles. Now the ones that have the landing gear on it, the ones that go to my diorama-ish thing, they get the white caps that have no lights in them, because these will not be lit. have my sprue cutter. Sprue cutter! What happens when you clean? You put things away and they're not where you left them. Sprue cutter. And I like the way these are engineered in such a way that the overlap really takes care of the sprue. So there you go. I'll glue that on tomorrow. I need to paint inside the step here. Take care of that. And then these will be ready to install on the shuttle. Good morning, it is Tuesday, it is September 8th. Importantly, it is Star Trek Day. Yes, 54 years ago this evening. Now, I have to confess to you that as a child, I was a little bit young for Trek. I was more of a Lost in Space boy myself, if I have to be honest. I remember watching that vividly. I caught an episode of Trek every once in a while. I would have been in '66. I would have been 6 years old. And maybe a little bit too young for the heady entertainment I was to enjoy so much later in life. I will tell you, I did see a couple episodes of the original run. I didn't get into Trek until about 70, 71 when it started into reruns. That's when I was able to sit down and watch a bunch of it, because being the youngest sibling in a house full of women, I had very little control of the television. I won't even say the remote, because the remote was telling somebody else to go change the channel. So I was able to like sneak over to the neighbors and watch Lost in Space. I could, if nothing else was going on, or if everybody else was busy, I might have some control over the television. Saturday mornings were pretty much mine. You know, typical Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny, Roadrunner type stuff. And of course the animated Trek when it came along. But did not see a lot of original Trek in its original airings. So I am enjoying it today. I can't think of a better thing to have on in the background while I'm working on the shuttlecraft, although I'm going to probably cut the camera for most of it, because YouTube is funny when you have copywritten material in your videos. Even if it's a live stream of something they're giving away for free, chances are they will flag it for copyright violation and shut your video down. I don't want that to happen, so I'll probably not record a lot today. But what I am going to be working on is finishing the inside of this shuttlecraft. This morning I went and got the doors painted. I got the stripe put on the door, so I'm able to put those back in place. I've got, of course, yesterday you saw me put the stripes on the cells here, and I needed to take the ones that I'm not using for this shuttle. I need to take them out of the room because they are a distraction. I need the ones that have the landing gear built into them. So let's get a little bit more cleaned up and we'll get back to it. I'm going to do some quick decal work, and that is the inside of this access door. It gets all these little wonderful 20th century circuit boards stuck on, and then we'll do a little bit of detail painting back in behind here as well. And getting ready to close up on a Tuesday evening. I spent the majority of the day watching the live streams from Trek Day, and I enjoyed that. I thought there was some good info there, and I don't begrudge myself spending that much time on me for nothing. So working a little bit later into this evening than I normally do to make up for it, I have finally put these two chairs in and the wall computers. Thought I'd never get around to it, but I did. I've got to do some touch up on that tan. Oh, I also have the foil bits. I know people don't care for the foil bits, but I do. The foil bits inside the wall here. And got to touch up that tan a little bit, but before I do, I want to do a little bit of sculpting around those door jambs. Oh, you'll notice the, let me see if I can do this. Come on. Yeah, I figured once I got everything in, it was going to be a more problematic thing. But I've got the door in this jamb. with the stripe painted on it. So that's in. And I need to do a little bit of sculpting around that with some epoxy sculpt to fill in some door jam. Hello kids, it's Wednesday. I've been playing at some tiny details because we're coming down to really not having a lot left to do but the tiniest of details. Working on that passenger or the driver's side wall. See if you can see that in there. Getting the, pardon the wire there. Getting the seats and the computers in and the silver stripes. Last night, before I turned in, I did a last bit of epoxy sculpting around that door frame, just on the inside, so that I could let that set up all night and touch the paint on that one last time. And that is the, where is it? That is the Royal Light Gray, which is the light gray that I'm using on the interior. It has a bit of a green cast to it, so that when you put any sort of green lighting on it, it accentuates that. Now that's the color I've been using all along. It's a warm, like I said, it's a warm gray. It's got some green in it, but that's gonna, I'm just gonna finish up touching up, because you know it's the old Jupiter 2 problem, the old sea view problem. Is that you can spend a whole lot of time painting up your interior, and then once you close it up, if you can't see it through the main window, why the heck did you bother? The of course, the nice thing about this is I will be lighting it, and you know that helps see the interior. Plus the door is open, and that gives you another insight into what's going on. But you know, it doesn't hurt to check before you spend your time, your blood, your sweat, your tears on it, to see whether or not it's actually going to show up in the long run. Yes, you know it's in there, and there's a certain satisfaction you get from knowing, hey, I know that detail's in there because I put it there. But if you're never going to see it, you have to wonder about the diminishing returns of bothering to paint it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I am worrying about what is going to be seen. I'm spending a lot of time on things that are going to be in the viewer's blind spot. You're never going to see them. But, you know, somehow your shuttle is just happier for knowing that it's in there. Okay, so ready to put the last of the decals down. They are the 3 that go 1, 2, and 3. I've got a little bit of gloss varnish underneath, and that has dried. So now I'm ready to quickly put these decals on, and then once those are dry, we can put the final semi-gloss coat over everything. The nacelles have not been installed yet because right now it's easier to get to that without the nacelle in place. Here's the last bit of assembly. I have glued on the nacelles. That's why it's kipping on its back like the Norwegian blue. Lovely plumage of the Galileo. It prefers kipping on its back. So now we're going to let that dry, and I'm going to get some lunch. Late lunch, but lunch nonetheless. Okay, we're closing down the model work for today, and I am darn close to closing this up. I've got the nacelles on. They are glued. I had it on its back for quite a while today, so that let that glue set up without any interference. And that has done. I put the little detail on here that that I noticed in the episode, and a lot of people seem to be missing out on, is I put a little wire there. Just a little bit to show the chain that went down from the open door to kind of hold that in place. So that's done. Now that this is up on its landing gear, it's a lot happier. I am almost to the point where I am ready to do the final semi-gloss coating on it. The last thing that has to be done really is to put the roof back on and wire it or solder it, resolder it, and slide it into place. I'm going to sleep on that tonight and come back at it tomorrow morning and see if I'm really done, so I'm not rushing into anything. Got a little bit of time left tonight, so I'm going to do some more work on the base. So I guess what I need to do is kind of move this off of the plate, so to speak, and bring the base back in so that I can do a little bit more work on it. Okay, this is my base and welcome to it. The last time you saw it, I don't know, so I'm just going to bring you up to speed. I've got all of these lava rocks. They're glued down, they're epoxied, they're stuck, they're never coming up again. I was at Michael's today. Michael's has reopened for customers, so I was able to go in and pretty much buy them out of the felt that I use for the bottom of the bases. It's just basically black felt, but it's got an adhesive backing on it. And before we get any further into this build, I need to go ahead and get the felt put on the bottom of this, because I have a feeling once it's all done, it's going to be oh so hard to turn this over and do that. Should have been done a long time ago, but like I said, couldn't get into Michael's. Let's go ahead and felt the bottom. I didn't mean that dirty. You keep your mind out of the gutter. I'm going to try something that's either going to turn out to work or not work, but in either instance, it's going to be very messy. So I'm going to get some paper towels and strew it about the bottom here. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 30-minute epoxy, mix it all up, chuck in some pink rocks, and then spread it out around the bottom here and see how well it works. Well, that didn't turn out too shabby at all. I may take another round of it, take another crack and another round of it tomorrow, but I don't want to get too much on here because this is very slow epoxy, and it's going to take forever to cure as it is. But I like it. I like how that turned out. Put some pink rocks. I may scatter a few up in here. Again, I'll whip up another batch of this tomorrow. But basically, I just took a whole dump load of the epoxy, put the stones in here, stirred it all up, and poured it out. So we'll see how it looks in the morning. Morning, folks. It's Thursday. I am looking at the results of yesterday's rocking, and I'm putting in some splashes of extra color. And I'm thinking of the Devil in the Dark and the Excalbians, any of the rock creatures that you would see on classic Trek. And sometimes, you know, they'd have this natural looking rock, and then you'd have like just a splash of just some really unusual or unexpected color, or unnatural color. So that's why I'm going for these blues and oranges, like the rocks were bleeding or something. Of course, I'm throwing it in here with this guy. Now that he's glued down, he's not in any danger of falling over. And I painted the edge of the wooden base to make that disappear. And I'm thinking I want to do something with this grass to break it up. I'm not wild about it looking so manicured as it is. So I have to figure out what it is I want to do. Maybe I could put some little lichens and bushes and stuff around there to break it up. But of course I need to make sure that I've got enough room mapped out for the shuttle to sit there. And the shuttle does not have a runway, does not need a runway. So it can kind of settle down and land in place. It's got I've got no reason to believe that it needs to come into a landing, that it couldn't just vertically land where it needs to. So I'm not too worried about closing off an obvious takeoff. It doesn't need a taxi to take off, is what I'm trying to say, in my own clumsy way. So let's bring the shuttle in and see what kind of room it needs. Okay, and here is the shuttle in situ, as it were. Now there's only one thing I really need to do besides plugging this thing in, is I need to reattach to the roof. Everything inside is done to my satisfaction, at least. So I need to resolder the connection here to the ceiling panel, slide the roof in. I will not be gluing the roof in, just in case I ever need to get to it again. I can do that. And then I will be doing the last things, like I'm not going to worry about making this hatch, after all the time and energy I spent on it, making it openable, easily openable and closable. So I'm just going to put it in place where it needs to. I don't need to glue it down any particular place, and I'm not going to put a hinge on it. I'm just going to set it that way for when it needs to be open. It'll wedge in place when it is closed. The last thing I need to do after all of the roof is done and all that is I need to hit this with a semi-gloss. But to do that, I want to mask off the front windows so that they don't get any of that spray on them. Alrighty, I've got the windows clean. One last bit of painting though I want to do, I want to take care of, and that is this front stripe here should be silver. It's a little known detail, not very prominent, but if you catch it in the right light you will see it. It is kind of spelled out on the paintings on the box art and the photos in the box art, but they didn't. The box art gave you this rather bland and generic painting guide, but never really specified where what paint should go where. If you notice, you can see this highlight right here on the bottom of the box, and you can kind of see it on the front edge here. But again, there are the colors, but they never say where they're supposed to go. So just going to put just a tip of that silver right on this nose piece. So I need to mask off underneath there. Get that nice clean line. Okay, the ceiling panel has been resoldered. It's been rejoined. And now it's squeaky bum time because we are going to be attaching or pushing the ceiling in place for probably the last time. I'm going to go ahead and pull this piece out, and I have already put a coat of the semi-gloss on the roof because I could, and because it was out and separate from the rest of the kit and easily to do that. And now I don't have to hit it as hard when I do the rest of the kit. So when I lay it on its top to do the bottom, this will already have been sprayed. Now, I'm doing this very cautiously because we have to slide it into the track that it has been given. I have to jostle the wiring here to make sure that it fits into the prescribed area that I have for it. Pushing that backwards, securing it. Might need a longer probe to do that. Let's get a longer probe out here to do the wire pushing. Okay, pushes that down, get it into place. Yeah, I might have to do this off camera because there could be some swearing. That went in a lot easier than I had a right to expect. Maybe because I had done it before, but it remembered its marching orders and it went right back into place like it should. Now I'm going to push in this last piece here to wedge everything in place, and it's got a mask on it to keep the clear spray off of the openings here. But I am going to, yeah, that's nice, that's working. Very good, very good. Now we've got this issue of the doors. I'm going to have to put something in behind them when I am spraying the satin so that I don't get any spray inside the ship. I think what I'd like to do is maybe put a piece of tape in behind. That's going to be fun. Let me see how easy that's going to be to do. I only really need, actually, you know what? I need to mask the windows on those doors too. Luckily I have a set of masks for those doors. Come on. Okay, that'll keep the clear spray off of those windows, because even when these doors are open, still want those windows to be clean. And certainly when the doors are closed like they are now, I want them to be clean. But what I can do is just run a strip kind of up and behind this. Let's see how that's going to work. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now if I can get my fat finger in behind there. It just has to exist long enough that it will block the clear paint. Okay, now, well, now we can spray it, but I have to take it outside to spray it, and it's overcast, and the humidity is only about 190%, so it's not the best day for spraying clear coats, but it's what gots to be done because we are darn close to finished. Darn close, like 98.9% done. Okay, well, the shuttle and the base are drying in their own prospective places. I'm going to turn my attention briefly back to this second shuttle. Now, I never said I was going to get the second shuttle done this week like the rest of it. It's just kind of its own animal, the mock-up shuttle. So I'm taking a slower go on it. But I will tell you, I've seen some beautiful shuttles out there. Some people really going all out as far as putting lights and strobes and nav blinkers and all that kind of stuff that was never on the actual kit, never on the actual set, but beautiful, logical stuff that really should have been there. Kind of reminded me of what my buddy Carwin did on the shuttle that I got from him, where he lit up the registry and put markers on the corners for the green and red navs. Some beautiful, beautiful stuff. So what I'm going to do today is I'm I'm going to work on mocking this up some more, and also trying to keep my options open for the future in case I want to crack this open and do some of that stuff for myself. I've taken a piece like this. It's just a piece of sheet stock, and I've painted it black, and what I'm going to do is I am going to not glue it, but I'm going to temporarily affix it in behind these windows so that you get the appearance of a black window without me actually having to paint this clear piece, because I don't want to do that. I want to keep my options open in case in the future I want to you know, put another interior in it, or if round 2 comes out with their own interior, I might want to put it in here without buying a new kit. So like I said, just to keep the options open. And now that I've got that in place, I'm just going to use some tape and tape it in place from the inside. But there you go. You get a nice black looking shuttle window or interior without having to paint anything. I just did a little bit of scratch building here. I've cut up some sheet styrene and sanded it down to make these new hatches to cover over the rear landing gear that would be recessed. And I am going to end up, I know, putting some Bondo around them, but well, you know, actually, no, those would be the perimeter of the landing gear. Stupid compressor. Those would be the perimeters of the landing gear hatches, so maybe just scribing in a center door after these have had a chance to cure may be all that I need, but I do have some gaps here that need filling, so we'll let that dry and come back to it later. Good morning, everybody. It's Friday. It's the last work day of the week. It's also the last work day on this particular shuttle model. Wanted to show you how it all turned out. I've got the lights out, or the overhead light out, so that you can see the lighting in its full glory. The doors are partially open. I can open them the whole way, or I can close them almost up to where they're touching. They Of course, when you cut two pieces of plastic apart, you lose the what is known as the kerf, the thickness of the blade that you're cutting, so that you would need to pad that out a little bit more so that those doors would close. But it's more for the effect than anything else. And I'll put the ramp in here. I'm still debating whether to glue the ramp in its open position or not. And of course the view towards the inside with the lovely, lovely seats and computers and the interior. And then down here you have, you have the headlights shining. And if you open up these doors the full way, you can see what's going on inside at the consoles, at the main console up front. And if you look, I'm sorry for the shaky camera work, but I'm off the tripod right now, but there you go. That's, and then you can see the consoles in there. I said again, a lot of this was done for the sake of being able to see in that front window. There you can see the lit astrogator, the two ball sensors, and of course getting around to the back, the main lighting there with the open access panel. All it needs is some people, but that sadly is tough to find. So maybe when round 2 does an interior, they'll include some people with it. When and if. But there's your fancy backgrounds with the nice rocks and stones and lichens and wingy bushes. This thing actually glows in blacklight. I didn't know that until I had it next to my curing station and saw how wildly that made it glow. If I could turn that, no, I can't turn that off right now, just to show you. But it's wild. And that, friends, is going to bring us to the end of this weekend, the end of this build. Now, this is generally the point where I hold up the finished build in front of the camera and say, look at this wonderful build. I'm not going to do that this week because this mother is heavy. Sitting on the base like this is making it very, very difficult to hoist up and show you the nice shuttle. Now I got to find a place to put it. I'm running out of room again, folks. So until next week, when it might be a potpourri week next week, who knows? I might have a bunch of little things. Certainly I have the other shuttle to finish, the other enhanced shuttle. That's going to have a whole bunch of lights just jammed into it. So I may, rather than try to finish that up this week, I thought maybe I'd carry that over into a special week all its own. Do an extended edition, if you will. But also, I've got some smaller things around here that I've been working on that maybe they will see the light of day finally. So until next week, be good to each other, be safe, take care of one another. We're all we have, folks, in this big mad world. We're all we have. So take care of each other. And we'll see you here next time.